G'day ladies and gents, Cubic Meter here. Over the past week, we've seen a range of Shulker Farm designs marching from the infinite ocean of YouTube content. And I've been working frantically to keep my designs up to date. But the problem is, there's not much to improve upon. We've already obtained the fastest possible individual module for a Shulker Farm, which produces exactly 523 shells per hour. That's a shulker box every 14 seconds. Which really should be sufficient for most players. But of course, we want to push the limits of what is possible in this game. So let's go on a journey to see just how far we can push this shulker breeding mechanic. To start with, we need to simply add more modules. It turns out that it's very easy to scale up the overworld side of the portal-based farm. The portal-based system loses shulkers very rarely. In fact, it will take on average 7.5 hours for each module to lose a shulker and have to replace it. Therefore, we can rely on a single centralized shulker buffer to restock all of our additional modules. And stacking the modules vertically, we obtain a very elegant solution for distributing the shulkers. If I go down to this third module and punch out the shulker, the module has its own lost shulker detection, meaning if this circuit was to unpower due to a shulker being lost in this module, it'll power this torch, powering this line, pushing in this powered rail. The second component we utilize is this bubble column. The dispenser picks up the water source block in a bucket, forcing the bubble column to collapse. We can detect this at the very top, which will activate this system, dispensing a minecart to pick up a new shulker, and immediately sending this case shulker into the module that is requesting it. So if I were to simulate this module requesting a shulker, like so, we can see a new one gets dropped down almost immediately. And once that shulker's in, it should reactivate this circuit, disabling the request. An added bonus is that we can also use the bubble column to deliver the minecarts back to the top. So the farm is easy to expand in the overworld, but unfortunately this is not the case for the nether collection system. Due to the increased traffic of minecarts in this collection system, we've had to ramp up the amount of rails significantly. Looking back at the same setup for the single module, we can see that far less minecarts are needed. And of course, with more minecarts means more congestion, which means more probability of the carts jamming. Fortunately, with a lot of design adaptations, I found a layout which works reliably most of the time. However, if you brutally load and unload the system for long enough, you'll find that it does eventually just fail. Okay, it didn't fail that time. I think we need to push it harder. There we go. We finally got it to fail. As you can clearly see, the system is extremely resistant to unloading. Fortunately, all we need to do is kill the minecarts and put them back into the distribution system. So the overworld, piece of cake, but the nether, drowning in minecarts. Nevertheless, with this very simple to build 5 module design, you obtain about 2,500 shells per hour. This is cool, but we can push it way further. I present the mother of all shulker farms. 84 breeding modules supplemented by its own single dimension farm as a buffer. This farm reaches the limit of what the game can handle, producing 56.8 thousand shells per hour. Wait a minute, 56.8 thousand divided by 84 modules means we're getting about 676 shells per hour per module. And why is it that we're no longer sending shulkers back to the overworld to stock up a buffer system? Considering with just the 5 module farm that produces 2,500 shells per hour, we already need 40 minecarts in the nether. Ramping this up to 56.8 thousand, we'll need almost 1,000 minecarts transporting the shulkers. This would simply be impossible. So instead, we just kill the shulkers as quickly as possible using our good old friend TNT. And of course, because we no longer have the shulkers coming back from the nether, we instead have a single dimension shulker farm supplementing an additional buffer which we use to restock any of the 84 modules that happen to lose their shulker. And the reason we're getting additional drops per module is because this is no ordinary TNT. This is in fact TNT ignited by a flaming arrow. This is a variable timing TNT looting system which works in 1.17. I've already covered this system in a previous video, so check that out if you want all the details. Normally you'd use a player's arrow for one of these looting systems. However, this makes the kill a player kill, which means that the mobs will drop XP, which increase the lag output of the system. In order to solve this issue, but still obtain the looting effect, all we need to do is obtain a piglin with a crossbow and force it to shoot one of its arrows. Once we have the arrow, put a piston underneath it and align the arrow so that it's pointing straight up. We can then transport the arrow all the way to the aerostasis chamber, and once it arrives, we can align it and drop it straight in. Now, any TNT ignited by this arrow will be attributed to that piglin. What we want to do now is give the piglin a sword with the looting enchantment. But the problem is, it won't pick up the sword because it already has a crossbow. Fortunately, you can completely disarm the piglin by forcing it to shoot arrows until the crossbow breaks. And once the crossbow breaks, all you need to do is hand it the sword and it will pick it up. Now, every kill from this arrow will be attributed to the piglin, who is also holding a looting sword. And because the piglin is not a player, the kills will not drop XP. So now we obtain a more lag efficient looting system that applies the looting effect. And we need all the performance we can get, because the instant I start up this farm, we can see it go from 16 MSPT all the way up to 40 MSPT. So we do in fact run into a server performance limit. We simply couldn't make the farm faster because then we'll start lagging the server. And in order to make sure that we do not lose any shells to this TNT, right underneath this ancient debris we have a layer of hopper minecarts which instantly collect the items the moment that the shulkers die. So you might ask, who on earth is ever going to need 57,000 shells per hour? Well, probably no one. But this was still a really cool project to work on, just to show how far we can push the shulker breeding mechanic. And I highly doubt that anyone but the most insane technical servers would ever put this much effort into a shulker farm. If you want to try and run the farm yourself, I'll be leaving a world download down in the description. In order to start the farm, make sure you are in this little booth and flick this lever right here to start the chunk loading system. You'll then grab some TNT, go to the overworld, click the farm on, go back to the nether, and start placing down the TNT. In a little while, you'll see the shulkers all coming in, and you should be placing down TNT by then in order to prevent their numbers from growing exponentially. To turn the farm off again, simply stop placing TNT, go back to the overworld, click the lever off, go back to the nether, continue placing TNT until all the shulkers are removed and no more shulkers are coming in. And now you can safely stop placing TNT again and switch off the farm. So there we have it. The absolute mother of all shulker farms using the vanilla mechanic from 1.17. I hope you enjoyed witnessing this insanity with me, and I'll be leaving schematics of the much more reasonable 5-module farm down in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.